Thank you, Ian, and we'll welcome Nicole Ferguson from the city of Sarnia. So we're again coming a little further east now into Ontario. We're going to be talking about Cityworks PLL this time around. Our other presentations have had more of an AMS focus, and we'll be looking at electronic plan review solutions, how those work with PLL, ArcGIS, and third-party software such as DigEplan. So Nicole, take it away, please, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Nicole Ferguson. I am a planning technician here at the City of Sarnia, and I wear many hats in my role. So I take care of a lot of our GIS work here in our Community Services Department, and I'm also our primary PLL administrator. So today I will talk to you about our Cityworks PLL implementation for building permits and some of the recent integrations that we just deployed. We'll just stop my video there. Okay, perfect. So just a high-level agenda. I'll start off with a background on our Cityworks PLL project and the overall implementation. And then I'm going to dive into the building permit circulation process in more detail. And this is where I'm going to start talking about our integration with DigEplan for integrated plans review. And then I have a little bit of a demonstration also to wrap up the presentation, just to give everybody a feel for what that process flow looks like. Okay, so a little bit of background on City of Sarnia. We are home to about 72,000 residents, and we are a lower tier municipality. So we're located 1 hour west of London, Ontario, and 1 hour north of Detroit, Michigan. So we're right on the Ontario-Michigan border at the bottom of Lake Huron. And as an organization, we started looking at Cityworks a few years ago, about 2 years ago, and have since started to implement it as a corporate-wide solution. So we are implementing both Cityworks AMS and PLL. So we have several business units across the city that are planning to come on board or are already on board. And you'll see that in just a moment. And our goals through implementing Cityworks were to modernize and increase efficiency, increase accountability to the community, and promote transparency and public access to information. So looking at the PLL side of the project in more detail, we did break our implementation out into several phases, as you can see here on the timeline. So we started with phase one, which was our building permit group, and they went live January 2022. So they're coming up to just 1 year in the system this winter. And then we had some recent launches as well. So we have our DigEplan integration, which was just launched on October 31st. So we're just fresh into that launch, still getting used to the system. So I'll talk a little bit about our experience so far and some of the lessons learned to date. And then just yesterday, we also launched our PLL phase two. So it's been a busy month here. And this phase two launch included bylaw and business licensing. So they're fresh out of the gates and already active in the system with cases and really kind of running with it so far. So it's been great. And then looking ahead into 2023, we're bringing our planning department on board, looking to deploy the public access portal, and then bringing our engineering department in as well towards the end of the year for development permits. So looking at our building permit implementation in a little bit more detail, like I said, they went live at the beginning of this year. So January 4th was their official go live date. And when we launched their implementation, they had about 40 standardized case templates in PLL. So this includes standard workflows, permit fees, and things like that, case data fields, all that stuff. And they have about 25 regular Cityworks users accessing the system to support the building permit process. And that does include reviewers from across 5 departments. And one of those departments is actually located at our upper tier municipality, the County of Lambton. So they're signing directly into Cityworks to complete plumbing reviews for our circulation. So they're using Cityworks and now DigEplan as well. And since we launched building permits, we've had over 600 permit applications be entered into Cityworks. And of those 600, we have issued almost 500 permits through the system. So it is being heavily used by our building department. And then a little bit of an update on our bylaw. So I went in this morning just to see where they're at with using the system. So like I said, they just launched yesterday, so they're fresh out of the gate. They were coming off of a very similar system, so they're used to using an automated system with standard workflow. So they were really eager to get going. And they set up 20 standard templates, so all for different type of bylaw enforcement cases, such as lot maintenance, property standards, things like that. And it is a smaller group, so there are 7 regular bylaw officers right now that are in Cityworks, and they'll be using it to track their cases. And when I looked this morning, they had 12 active bylaw cases in the system already. So that's just within over 24 hours. So they're off to a great start. And then business licensing, they're new as well. They had a little bit larger of a configuration. So 45 standard case templates. And we included templates for new licenses and renewals. So once again, they have standard workflows, fees, and all of that built in. And this is a much smaller user group. So there's 2 staff who are regularly accessing Cityworks to support this side of the configuration and to use this side of the system. So we have our licensing clerk and a manager, and they are currently in the process of migrating all of our business licenses from spreadsheets into the system. So when I checked earlier this morning, they were up to 113. I think we have about 350 active licenses altogether. So we're hoping to wrap that up within the next week or so that we can officially retire some of those manual spreadsheets and have everything in the system ready to go for our renewals next year. So going back to our building permit implementation, I'm going to dive into our circulation process in a little bit more detail now. And this will lead us into a discussion of DigEplan. So in the past, we had some challenges with our circulation process, which basically led us to where we are today and why we implemented DigEplan. So in the past, all of our application drawings were actually placed in shared folders. So staff were accessing those shared folders to complete their reviews. And this was resulting in a few issues such as duplicated files. So files may be copied by mistake sometimes, placed multiple places, where multiple versions would be uploaded as a result of a review. And this also required a VPN connection, which was a little bit more of a challenge for our counterparts up at the county. So they had to remote in through a remote desktop, basically just to open up a PDF document. So it wasn't very efficient. And one of the other big challenges was that we couldn't circulate documents concurrently. The system that we had in place basically locked the documents as soon as one user opened it. So we had to go one by one. And this also became a huge challenge if someone accidentally left that document open. The next person in line wasn't able to access it. So looking at this process in a little bit more detail, basically it started off with the inspector assigning the review. The assigned staff would pick up that review and review the drawings. Any comments that they had were being sent back to the inspector, and then the inspector would forward those comments over to the applicant. And this was repeated for each department, which depending on the permit type could be up to 5 departments. So it's a fairly lengthy process, and it could be repeated multiple times for a single department on that list as well. So for example, it could take 2 rounds going through planning and asking for a resubmission before circulating to engineering. And then engineering may also find deficiencies on that application, which would start this process all over again. So it was quite lengthy. So looking ahead, we identified some business goals. And of course, being a municipality, we always want to be customer focused. So we always want to look at how we can increase our customer service. And specifically, we really wanted to decrease the time required to process our permit applications. And we wanted to do that a few ways. So we wanted to circulate applications concurrently. So we wanted multiple people to be able to open a drawing at once and put their comments in. And then we wanted to be able to provide applicants with a package of comments from all departments at once. So when the applicant receives notice that they need to resubmit, they know exactly what each department's looking for, so they can resubmit that full package back to the city next time. And then we also wanted to provide staff with easy access to the application drawings. We didn't want to work with our folders or remote desktops anymore. We wanted that to be simplified as well. And then we also wanted to be able to easily monitor applications. So we wanted to be able to check and see which reviews have been complete, which are outstanding, have easy access to comments and results. So if the review is accepted or rejected. And then we also wanted to have insight onto our provincial revision times and really understand where each application stood based on those standards and how we were performing against those standards. So based on those business goals, we came up with a pretty cool solution. And this had 3 parts to it. So the first part is our Cityworks PLL implementation. The second part is our integration with DigEplan, which is an electronic plans review solution. And it is hosted on the web, and it integrates with Cityworks using the Case API. So it is pretty seamless. And then the third part is our ArcGIS dashboards. And these are really our command centers that bring everything together and really start to engage our staff and users. So looking at the first part here, I've broken out into 2 subcomponents. So we'll start off with part 1A, which is our provincial revision time. So as soon as an application is entered into Cityworks, our admin staff are assigning a revision time using the case data. So that gets set right away. And this basically allows us to determine our starting point for our permit timelines when we start our circulation. The second part in Cityworks is the PLL workflow tasks. So because we leveraged the PLL workflow logic, we were able to standardize the intake and circulation process across all of our application types. So this allowed us to actually build milestones into the workflows that represent the provincial revision time milestones, including a task for application being received, deemed complete, and the permit being issued. So as staff go through and complete these tasks in the workflow, the system is automatically tracking those dates in the back end for them. And this is what's essentially allowing us to build out these timelines and track how many days we have remaining in a specific circulation period. The second part is our DigEplan integration. So like I said, this is web-based and it does integrate with Cityworks using the Case API. So if this is something that you're looking into, definitely just be aware that the Case API license is required. But the nice thing about DigEplan and really why we went with DigEplan is because it supports concurrent digital plans review. So we can now circulate our applications to multiple departments at once and have several staff reviewing a document at the same time. And like I said, it integrates directly with PLL. So all of our drawings are uploaded directly to Cityworks, and then users are launching DigEplan and they can open those submitted drawings directly in DigEplan. They can add markups, take measurements, compare submissions, and things like that. There are several tools available, and really we just kind of started to skim the surface of what our options are. But once you're done, it automatically saves the approved drawings back to Cityworks, which is also really nice. We don't have to worry about managing any of the files ourselves anymore. And then the third part is our ArcGIS dashboard. So this is where things start to really come together. And like I said, this is really the command center for our users, and it's been a really powerful tool for us. So we're starting off basically by bundling up all of our Cityworks permit data. So we're taking that revision time category that we assigned at intake, and then we're looking at our task end dates on the workflow. So we're looking to see how long it's taken us to deem the application complete after it's received. And then we're looking at that overall revision time and seeing how many days we have remaining based on those dates in that category. We've also set some internal standards here too. So we've set a target to try and be just below the provincial standards, just to ensure we're giving the best quality customer service possible. So all of that information is essentially being tied to the permit location or the parcel. So because the parcel is added to the application intake, we have that tied to the GIS, and that is how we can actually push this information out into the dashboard. And then lastly, we're also including a dynamic DigEplan file link. And DigEplan's made it nice and easy. All of their links are dynamic based on the case number. So it's really easy to build these into scripts and queries. And what we're doing basically is taking all this data, pushing it out through a GIS query layer. There's other ways of sharing it out. We just went with a query layer because it gives us access to real-time information. And at a given time, we may only have 15 to 20 applications in circulation. So this layer isn't too large, so performance hasn't really been an issue. And then we're taking that query layer and we're pushing it into an ArcGIS dashboard. And this is where we're starting to visualize our data, and we're using these dashboards to track our circulations. And we basically have two different types of dashboards. The first is for our file manager, which is essentially our building inspectors. So they're responsible for the application as soon as it comes in, and they are responsible for tracking that circulation and following up with departments. So they're set up with a dashboard called My Circulations. And from here, they can see all of their files that are currently in review, and they're sorted by remaining time. So they can see which applications are going to approach that target time first, so they know which ones they should be prioritizing. And then they can access review comments and results directly from this dashboard. And then this dashboard also flags any application that may require their attention. So that could be an application where maybe it slipped through the cracks and the review wasn't assigned. It will flag it for them. And then it also flags anything that has completed circulation so that they can either forward it to our CBO to issue, or they can request a resubmission. And then the second type of dashboard that we have is our to-do list dashboard. And this shows all of our reviewers, their assigned reviews, once again, sorted by time remaining. So they can see which reviews they need to prioritize based on those assigned revision time categories. And they also have a direct link to DigEplan. So instead of sorting through files and logging in through remote desktops and things like that, they just have to click on a button and the drawings will open for them automatically. And then the other nice thing about these dashboards is they also have access to submission history and past comments. So we've brought all of this in just using GIS query layers. So they have all of this information up front. So if an application was resubmitted, they can see that past history, and they can see their comments that were originally sent to the applicant, so they know exactly what they're looking for on this resubmission. Okay. So on that note, I'm going to launch just a quick demonstration of what this process looks like. Now, this is a very high-level example of the overall flow. Our actual process, especially in DigEplan, is a little bit more detailed, but I really just wanted to showcase what it looks like navigating from the case to the dashboard to DigEplan and sending those files back. So we'll take a look at our reviewer to-do list and launch DigEplan from there. So in this example, I'm just on a demo case set up in Cityworks. This application is for a residential accessory building. We can see here on the main panel that the location has been set for 127 Christina Street South, and the status is sitting in review. So we can go ahead and start the circulation process on this application. And as we go through and scroll through some of the panels, you'll see all of the information has been populated for us. So I have my parcel, it's been added. And once again, that's our tie to the GIS. That's how we can push the information over to the dashboards. We have all of our contacts added to the people panel. And I'm just going to scroll a little bit further down to the details. This is where we're storing our revision time category. So if I open this up here, you'll see we have assigned a category. So we're sitting at 10 days for our revision time. Perfect. So once again, that's determining our starting point for our counters on the dashboard. And then as I scroll down a little bit further, you'll see our workflow panel. So some of the tasks have been completed for us already, including the application being entered, assigned, and deemed complete. So if I just open up the application enter task, you'll see here we've actually gone ahead and attached our drawings directly to this task. So I should have some demo plans in here. Perfect. So these have been uploaded to Cityworks, and we are ready to bring them into DigEplan. So I'll close out of there. And for today, I'm just going to work with the planning review. So I'm just going to open up that review and just double check that it's been assigned to me, because that's essentially what sends it over to my dashboard. Perfect. So I'm going to close out of here, and I'm going to open up my reviewer to-do list dashboard. So I'm just going to click on the My Reviews option on my side menu here. And this is going to open up that ArcGIS dashboard embedded directly into Cityworks Response. So it's a really seamless experience. And as this loads, you'll see I have some indicators across the top for any overdue reviews, reviews due today. And you can see here I have 2 reviews sitting in my list right now. That top one there is for 127 Christina Street South. So that's the one that we were just looking at. And I can see here some basic details such as the case number, the case type, the assigned inspector, and description of work. And then I also have my business days remaining. So this is where we are looking at that revision time category, our PLL workflow tasks, and determining how many days we have left remaining in the circulation. Once again, it's picking up on those internal service level standards as well. So it's all doing those calculations in the background. And it actually bumped this review up higher than the one that was already in my list. So you can see the bottom review is sitting at a total of 7 days for the days remaining. And essentially at this point, what's happening is it's recognizing that the new review had a shorter revision time. So it's just bumping it up to the top there for me. And if I click on that review again, the map's going to update. So there's our tie to the GIS again. And so we have a preview of the property. And the panel just below that is actually tied to this map window as well. So I'm able to see any other files that fall within this window. So you can see here, there's already another permit out for an addition. And this was issued for the same property. So I know exactly who reviewed that permit. I know the permit number. So if I wanted to go look up any information related to that, I have that information up front for me. And then next, I have my submission history over here on the right-hand side. So there's nothing sitting in this panel right now. This is an initial submission. But if it was a resubmission, we'd see all of my past comments and reviews here. So once again, I don't have to go digging for that information. I have all that information up front. So all I have to do now is click on my link to DigEplan, and my drawings are going to launch for me. So we have that link embedded right on the dashboard. So I'll just go ahead and click that. And DigEplan opens. And the nice thing about DigEplan is it's filtering directly on that case number. So you'll see that Cityworks case number coming through at the top. And my document list here shows those demo plans that we saw back in Cityworks. And so from here, I can go ahead and actually access that file. And I'm just going to open it up in plans view so we can see all of the sheets. So typically we'd be going through and reviewing all of these sheets in detail. So I could select a sheet here, and there's different tools. I can apply some text, standard text, callouts, stamps. There's a fairly large toolbar across the top. You can also mark it up using freehand tools, polygons, and things like that. There's also comparison tools. So when you have resubmissions, you can compare different sheets to each other. So for today, I'll just keep it simple. I'm just going to insert a standard text. So we've uploaded all of our common comments to the panel here. So I can just grab one of these and drop it in. There we go. And I'll just zoom in a little bit here. All of the text and everything like that can be resized based on the sheet size for the drawing that you're looking at as well. And we can override this text also. And then once we're done, we can go in here and just drop an approved stamp on here. So typically this would happen after all departments review it, but I'll just show you for demonstration purposes today. And this just picks up on my user account and my signature. So I'll just make that a little bit larger. So I can drag it around and basically place it wherever I'd like. And at the end of a typical circulation, the sheet here would have 5 approved stamps on it, 1 from each department. So once everybody's done their review, our last reviewer is going through and closing it out in DigEplan and sending the approved drawings back to Cityworks. So I'll go ahead and start that process now. So I'm just going to dive into my processes list. And in here, we have an option for our final approved report. So I'll launch that. And there's different options for this report as well. So you can include like a cover sheet, which is basically a list of all of the corrections. We've kept it pretty simple. We're just sending our drawings with any markups or stamps back to Cityworks. So I'll run that. And that once again just uses the API to send all of the information back. And I'll get a little success message. Perfect. So that's been sent back to Cityworks for us. So I'm just going to jump back over to my dashboard. And I'll just quickly mark this review as being approved so that my workflow knows that it's done. So I have a link here to open up the task manager. And I'm just going to use my task result here to set this as accepted. And then I'm going to also go in and take a look at the actual case, and we'll see that attachment sitting in the attachments panel. I'll just open up here by clicking on the case number. And then as our screen loads, we have our attachments panel in the bottom right-hand corner. And once that loads, we should now see 2 attachments sitting there. And one should be our approved drawing set. There we go. So that top attachment, that's our approved drawing set. So that includes all of our markups. And you can see here that was also uploaded by our DigEplan account. So that's just our account that has been set up with our API license. So it's all ready in Cityworks. So the next person to open the file can access those drawings. And looking back on my dashboard, my reviews dropped off my dashboard. I'm down to 1 remaining review. So that's just a quick kind of high-level summary of what the overall process flow looks like. Like I said, this is still pretty new to us. We're just about maybe 3 weeks into the overall process and getting used to using the system. But in the last 3 weeks, we've actually processed 41 applications in DigEplan. So of those 41 applications, 12 issued permits or approved permits have been generated. We have 14 that are currently sitting in review today. So they're actively open in DigEplan, and we have staff going through and marking those up. And then we have 15 that are currently waiting for resubmission. So they've been circulated through DigEplan. Deficiencies have been noted, and we're just waiting on the applicant to resubmit so we can bring those drawings back in and recirculate. And that's where we can start to leverage some of those more advanced tools to compare resubmissions. But at this point, we're still kind of fresh into the system and still trying to grow into it. And I've just listed a few lessons learned. So if you are looking at implementing either DigEplan or maybe another similar plans review integration at your organization, I've just listed a few notes here that have come up on our side. So the first recommendation would be to establish a clear migration plan. So these are some of the questions that we found ourselves asking. So how will existing applications be handled? So those may be applications that were, say, received yesterday. They're not yet deemed complete. Should we bring those into DigEplan? Should they remain outside? Things like that. And then how should resubmissions be handled? And how will document locations be communicated to involved staff? So if you are doing that soft launch, that communication point is key. So we use that approach. All of our new applications went into DigEplan, and any existing ones lived in our old system. So we had to add a field to the dashboard there to communicate where the drawings were located. So we used that approach for about 2 weeks, and then we decided we're bringing everything into DigEplan to simplify the overall process. And then also, I do recommend establishing clear procedures for managing Cityworks attachments. So a little bit of a hint here. Any attachment uploaded to Cityworks will appear in DigEplan. So it's really important to keep both places as clean as possible, just to avoid confusing any users who are going in there to do a review. So some of the questions that we looked at were, which files should be attached to intake? Where should the files be attached? Should they go directly to a task or to the overall case? And then should files ever be removed? If so, which files and when? So if a drawing was attached to intake, but it was deemed incomplete and we receive a new drawing, should we be removing that initial one that was never reviewed in scenarios just like that? And then lastly, a few more points here. The first one being, I highly recommend establishing and encouraging submission standards. So this could include a few things from document names to formats, all the way through to structure. So are you receiving drawings as a single bundle, or maybe they're broken out into individual files or smaller drawing sets? Having a standard really makes that intake process in DigEplan much more efficient. Standard page sizes, page names, and sheet references. Having a procedure in place for that will definitely also make the intake process in DigEplan more efficient as well. And then lastly, and most importantly, if you're going through an integration like this, definitely test using real-world applications and drawing packages. The sample data works great. It's definitely good for training and things like that. But once you get into some of these real-world scenarios, you're going to encounter some of these, unique cases with certain drawing packages that you didn't think of ahead of time. So definitely test those as early as possible, just so you're prepared for some of those scenarios that may come up. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you.